Hello, thank you for joining me today. I want to just quickly talk with you about rethinking education on a changing planet. I think now more than ever, every year this becomes more and more urgent, and especially in the last few months, this has become even more critical. The idea that the planet is changing so fast, and yet the administration of arguably the most powerful country in the world denies that climate change is even happening. At the presidential level, at the administrator of the EPA, the head of the Energy Department, the head of the Department of Agriculture, we all have a series of climate deniers in the administration, and that is surreal. Considering that last year was the warmest year ever recorded, and before that, the 2015 was the warmest year, and on, we have the hottest years in human history right now, to the point where atmospheric scientists like Jennifer Francis are noting the extreme weather that they're seeing, 20 degrees Celsius warmer over the whole Arctic on some days. This is scary. Is the best word for it, and to the point where climate scientists have concluded that the science suggests that certain things are no longer even avoidable, right? So Western Antarctic is going to be lost, most likely, according to a series of studies in 2014, and that might take a few hundred years. That might take 400 years. Frankly, it's going to depend on how quickly we get our act together. If we're continuing to pump the current amount of CO2 into the atmosphere, or if we slow down. But no matter what, in just a few generations' time, 3, 4, maybe fewer, we are going to live in a world that is nothing like ours. Even as we continue on this quest of growth, where we probably within the next 30 years, we'll have 9.6 billion people on the planet, which is going to put all new levels of pressure on the planet. So we have to ask, well, so what do we do about this? I mean, ultimately, we have to change pretty much every institution and the priorities and goals of human civilization. We've talked about that more broadly at World Watch Institute. In State of the World 2010, for example, I looked at rethinking the whole culture, moving away from consumption. But this year I really wanted to focus in on the institution of education, how we could rethink education on a changing planet. And I argue that education needs to prioritize two goals. First, sustainability, and second, resilience. It's no longer enough to teach children as an add-on this idea that they should recycle, they should be good environmental stewards. That by itself is not enough. It has to be at the center of their education. They need to be groomed to be sustainability leaders and understand that there is nothing more important than rethinking our civilization in a sustainable way and getting to that goal. At the same time, it's no longer enough to do that, even do it well. Because there are these changes baked into the future. And so we also need education for resilience. How do we prepare students today, children, older students, to be ready for these dramatic changes that are coming? Not just ready politically and socially, although that's very important, but even in basic senses of the word. How do they, what kind of basic skills do they have? And so in this report, we look at these key, what we call Earth Education Core Principles, or Earth Core. At the very basic, at the foundational level, Earth dependence, interdependence on top of that, creativity, deep learning, and then Earth-centric leadership at the pinnacle. And all along the side, all up and down, throughout, woven in, is life skills, because life skills will be essential both today, and just in living day-to-day life, but also in preparing for these changes that are coming. And there are 25 chapters in the report, and we have chapters on all 6 of these topics. And let me just walk through a few of the highlights. At that foundational level of earth dependence, we have several chapters because it is so foundational. There is a chapter on nature preschools or forest schools, where children spend their day not in a classroom, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, but in the woods or in the fields, and they're engaging with teachers, but they're also free ranging, going around, playing in brooks and streams, climbing trees, swinging on swings, whittling in some cases. You see 6-year-olds working with knives, playing with the fire, and being given a huge amount of freedom that allows them to really connect with their local ecosystem, connect with nature, and develop their own self-confidence and deeper skills. There's also a chapter on eco-literacy, looking at how to fully understand the Earth and Earth systems, and those two very much complement each other. It's not enough to just know that the rainforests are in trouble. One also has to connect to the forest that they are living near. There's a chapter on indigenous skills, looking at how ancient skills are being used and as educational tools to connect students with nature, to reconnect indigenous peoples with their traditions. These are images of a woman harvesting tool reeds and then making them into a tool canoe. I too am a big fan of indigenous education and traditional skills. This is actually my son harvesting acorns, getting the meat out of the acorns, which we then ground up, leached, and used to cook with. We made muffins and breads and all different things, and they're very nutritious, and they're a traditional food that is going to be readily available even when perhaps grocery stores are being strained by drought, by disruptions, social disruptions. So having indigenous skills, having basic knowledge of life cycles, of gardening, of forestry, of food processing, it's fun and it's a good teaching tool, but it's also essential for weathering the storms to come. Beyond earth dependence, there's this interdependence, this connection between people, the building community in ways that people nurture each other. There is a chapter on social emotional learning, which is very important in understanding one's emotions, being able to understand others' emotions, and make those connections and respond to them healthily. There's a chapter on character education, sometimes called moral education, where we actively teach morality or good character. As the author notes, character education is always happening, whether we do it intentionally or it just is done inadvertently. So taking control of it and really talking about how character is developed, implementing programs like are on the screen here, where you have older children mentoring younger children, having actual communication about moral exemplars and character leadership, that can really improve the moral character of students. And that's going to be especially crucial as more and more crises develop and as there is more pressure on the resources that are becoming more limited as both the population grows and as climate disrupts food production, coastal settlements, and so on. And because things are so different and are going to be so challenging in the future, having creativity will also be very important. There's a chapter on the importance of play in developing creativity and in increasing the healthiness of children. The author makes a very good point that as play has declined, ADHD, attention deficit disorders, have increased. And that is there's a strong correlation there. So finding ways to increase play, both for younger children, free play, but also at higher levels, whether that's art. This is an image of a student who's designed comic strips, sustainability comics. There's lots of ways to integrate creative thinking directly into the day-to-day curriculum. Also, there's ways to integrate deep learning. Deep learning is often used as an AI term, artificial intelligence term, where the artificial intelligence is learning how to learn, the ability to learn how to learn or apply learning from one field to another. And that is happening. There's a great chapter on deeper learning and on systems thinking, but by integrating those ideas directly into schools and curricula, there's an opportunity to really allow students to be able to apply knowledge from one field to another, to apply what they're learning now to the challenges, the unknown challenges that will be coming down the pike. These images are actually of prisoners. There's a wonderful chapter on sustainability education in prisons. The man on the left is actually showing off his vermicomposting system that he created for a prison. And the woman here is actually helping to pollinate these plants. And there's real opportunity to provide a nurturing experience for inmates, to provide meaning, to improve the economic and environmental and social conditions of the prison, and even expand the scientific benefits of, in this case, of pollination services, of learning about how to effectively do that. So learning can happen anywhere. Good educational ideas are being designed and experimented with in all situations, in all contexts, including in prisons. So there's a real opportunity here. And life skills is one, as I mentioned, that it's spread throughout, whether you're in a forest school or a prison or practicing your creative design. Life skills are being integrated throughout, whether in the form of learning basic gardening skills, whether learning food preparation. In Thailand, there's a wonderful school that puts social entrepreneurship at the heart of the model. And at this school, students all have jobs. Some are working in the farms, some are tending and harvesting eggs from their chickens. Others are actually designing solar lighting kits and recharging kits, as this boy is doing, and then selling to the villages, and the local villages around the school. The other life skill chapter is on comprehensive sexuality education, and this, sadly, it should not be, but is often a taboo topic in U.S. education and in other countries. But not knowing basic family planning, is essentially guarantees a much lower quality of life for those students, whether because they are going to contract diseases or increase their chances of, at least, whether that's because of unwanted pregnancies, and that's also going to have a broader impact on the planet. If we don't start stabilizing the global population, we're not going to be able to solve our sustainability challenges. So, as the author points out in many times, all pregnancies should be wanted pregnancies, and comprehensive sexuality education is a key tool in helping to make sure that children understand that family planning is important and is in their control. And finally, at the pinnacle, and this I think organically evolves from those 5 other elements, but also can be nurtured directly, is this idea of Earth-centric leadership. There are schools like the Green School in Bali that really prioritize this, where you have actual students organizing national campaigns around plastic bag taxes, and really working hard at day after day to really change the world. And there are other schools where that's not prioritized, but teachers have taken it upon themselves, and that they can do a huge amount in pushing for global and national and local change. But the key is to really understand that that needs to be prioritized and pushed forward. Finally, we actually end the book with some scenarios from the future, from 2030, and what Earth education could look like if it was implemented. And I actually leaned on, for one of the scenarios, an example that's already in existence in Nigeria, of an example of a floating school. This is the image of it, where local educators designed this school because flooding was happening so often that school attendance was being disrupted because the school was literally underwater. So they built a school that would float. And I kind of took that as a starting point because it's such an innovative idea where it solves the immediate problem of adapting to the changing climate in this case, but it also gives an opportunity where you can integrate almost a forest school experience on the boat, traveling along the river, learning about the river that is so central to the local ecosystems and the local lives. And there's a real opportunity to really rethink in a big way how education is done, whether we prioritize providing nature access to all children early on in their lives and keeping that going throughout. There's a chapter on stewardship, for example, that really shows and has lists of different ways to get children engaged across different age ranges. Whether we're really integrating all these different skills directly into school at every level. In fact, there's a whole final section of the book, which I won't go into now, but I encourage you to take a look at, on higher education and how we can integrate all the sustainability education and resilience education, even at these highest levels, from engineering courses to agricultural courses to medical and business school. So at that, I will leave it to you to maybe ask the question of each other: how are your schools? How is your school prioritizing sustainability education, resilience education, and these key skills: earth dependence, interdependence, creativity, deeper learning, earth-centric leadership, and life skills? How are they integrating these into the school day after day, so that you all are ready for the future that is coming, whether we want to believe it or not? Thank you.